All right, this is going to be my reaction video to the Ravens' 13-3 loss in Cleveland. All credit to the Cleveland Browns. They were able to pull out a win. Their first one with Deshaun Watson as their starting quarterback, so good for them. If you're a Browns fan listening, this reaction video, my perspective, is always going to be Ravens-centric. But you have to give credit to the Browns for certain things they did. Now, I think they had opportunities to get more separation in the third quarter, maybe even the fourth. They really allowed the Ravens to hang around on a night when I really think most of the Ravens players and coaches mailed it in. It did not look like a real spirited team or effort to me. Even when there were situations where J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards was just lacing the Browns defense. If you're interested, I can post up some of these pictures. I know they're somewhat funny, the Harb Vader or Harbs as Vader reference. What I mean is continual indications or continual decisions that go against the best interests of everybody there. I'm talking about the fourth and one decision on the first possession. Now, look, there's a lot of blame to go around, all right? But if you're interested, I'll post up a link to share these documents and let people, or share these pictures if people want to download them, use them as your screensaver or whatever. Look, I don't care. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care what the means to the end is in terms of how we win football games. I do not care. I don't care if we run 50 times. I don't care if we throw 50 times. I don't care if we only run 10 offensive plays and we punt because the defense is the 85 Bears. It really doesn't matter to me what the means to the end is. It's actually kind of interesting and weird to me that there's so many people who have a vested interest in how we get to a win. I felt like it was obvious that this was another game that we needed to win 12-10 or 15-13. I don't care how we get to the end result. I just care that this was a winnable game and we had the ability to win it. Like I said early on, credit to the Browns for making it happen and getting the win. Now, so I'm going to preface my overall point here, which is going to be a little bit of a rant. Situationally, decision-making, we were horrible across the board. I'm talking about coaching staff. Situational decision-making was terrible, and I'm going to go over at least two situations or examples of that to try to convince you of that perspective that our situational awareness tonight, again, came back to haunt us. And I will show the stats here in a moment, but I'm letting these pictures post up because my buddy who made them does unbelievable work, and I hope you appreciate them. Look, let's talk about the players for a second. There's a lot of guys who played bad. Huntley played really bad. I felt like there was two situations, maybe three, where guys are wide open and we're not getting them the ball. Twice, I felt like he runs out of bounds and takes a sack when he could throw the ball away. I thought it was twice. Maybe it was three times. Demarcus Robinson and the ball security, we have talked about that numerous times, this issue, and that one came back to haunt us tonight, obviously. We had the fumble after the huge gain on snag flat, which is one of the concepts that Huntley can read quickly and deliver the football on time and accurate. And the fumble was huge. Pass rush tonight was inconsistent. And then when we did get a big sack, Justin Houston, it's a face mask. And that's Justin Houston. That's a Hall of Famer. Impeccable resume. Unbelievable play this season for us in 2022. And he gets a sack on third down, and it's a face mask. So, there's blame for everybody. Andrews had the big drop where he looked kind of lazy catching the ball along the left sideline. And he's been somewhat non-existent for large periods of time. I'm building to a point here, okay? The players and their problems is not my overall point, so bear with me if you aren't able to follow a long progression of thought. Deshaun Jackson on the interception, he could maybe make a break on that ball a little sooner. It looked like, and I think Kurt Warner identified it, he could maybe make a break on that ball with a little more aggression. I thought the broadcast was terrible tonight. Completely late showing us plays, showing us formations, down and distance. Everything was late. It was horrible to watch. Having said all that from a Ravens perspective about the players, in my opinion, it leads back to some of the situations they're put in. So, for example, on the interception to Deshaun Jackson, could Jackson maybe break on the ball better? Yes. Could Huntley maybe throw it somewhere differently? Yes. I think the announcers, the broadcast staff, incorrectly identified as that as zone. Ward goes with Jackson, man, and the guy who's guarding Duve goes with him, man. Could Duve screen or pick the defender since it is man. Yes, absolutely. We've seen that done to us many times before. I'm not a huge fan of that concept there, but it is a concept that can be executed. It's a concept that many other teams execute. But the players were put in that situation. I'm talking about the 5th possession, all right? The interception that basically gives, I don't want to say takes us out of the game, but it definitely put us in a perilous position to try to come back and win. First possession of the third quarter, Browns were up 6-3. We end up with a 3rd and 10 from the 16-yard line, and we throw an interception. Blame Greg Roman for calling the pass play on 3rd and 10. I blame him for calling the pass play 2 plays earlier on 1st and 10 from the 16. That's my point. Things happen that lead you down a path, and the end result of that path is bad. The decision at the beginning of that path is like a split off, a turn. And in my opinion, we're making bad decisions consistently as a staff with certain things in mind. Let me get some of the stuff going here in terms of the stats so you guys can see them if you're interested while I talk about that 5th possession, because I think it's a real big moment. All right, the 5th possession is it's an interception, like I said, and it's a culmination of failure. We failed to double up at the end of the second quarter and the beginning of the third quarter. But, where's J.K. Dobbins on that 5th possession? We get 1st and 10 from the 16, and we throw the ball and take a sack. I think it's another one of those situations where Huntley scrambles and takes a bad sack, but I could be wrong there. I know there was 2 of them, maybe 3. We had 5 carries for 41 yards on that possession. Dobbins had carries on 3 of the first 4 plays of that possession. The 5th possession, first possession of the third quarter for the Ravens. Down 6-3, like I said. Dobbins gets 3 carries, and here they are, ready? To start the possession. 3 yards, 25 yards, and 5 yards. Edwards then gets 2 carries, 7 and 1. We convert the first down on a 3rd and 6. Huntley scrambles out to the right. And then we immediately go back to the pass. Dobbins hasn't carried the ball in 5 plays. He's wrecking them. Dobbins, I forget who it was. I forget the guy's name. Ravens for Dummies, maybe. I think put a tweet up earlier this week that was like, the red zone offensive issues at times seem to be solved by J.K. Dobbins. Well, we get down here, and it's 1st and 10 on the 16, and it's a horrible decision by Huntley, if you ask me, to take the sack and not throw the ball out of bounds, if I'm remembering the correct play. I haven't looked at the replay. Then we give the ball to Dobbins on a 2nd and 14. It's like, you dummies, why didn't you give the ball to him on the 1st and 10 from the 16? We end up in the 3rd and 10, down 6-3. Huntley throws an interception. Great play by Denzel Ward. It's man, from what I remember seeing. I think they got Kurt Warner and them incorrectly identified it as zone, but, I could be wrong. When I get to see the replay, we'll see. But the point is, Huntley was put in that position by the play call on 1st down. Should all things be better by the players? Yes. I have a problem with our understanding as a coaching staff of how we're going to win this game tonight, what the score is going to be. And in my opinion, it dates all the way back to the first possession. I'm going to digress on that first possession before I really talk about any other situations. So, forgive me if you don't enjoy hearing me rant about our constant decision to go for it on fourth down on certain possessions. Forgive me for that. Just realized I had a mistake. Hold on. All right, my apologies. I'm going to rant on that, and I'm going to try to compare it to some real-life things, okay? So the first possession, we're kind of moving the ball. We get down there. It's kind of like the typical Ravens game that we end up losing, even dating back to last year. You can kind of backtrack and look at some even this year as well, you can look at some missed opportunities by the offense. Now, we had one conversion of a 3rd down on our first drive, the defensive pass interference to Andrews. I feel like we should go back to that more often. But let's talk about this situation. And then I'm going to try to compare it to some real-life scenarios. And you can tell me whether you guys like the comparison or whether you think they're stupid. So we go for it on 4th down. Personally, I think Ricard may have got it. I don't know why we didn't challenge it. It seems like a big moment there. I know going for it on 4th down, not getting points, and then challenging using a timeout seems like doubling down on stupid. Well, I think it's actually tripling down on stupid to challenge it. You might as well challenge it. It's doubling down on stupid by going for it on fourth down in the first place. You need points to win football games. You need points to win in the AFC North. If we give up 30 points to this Browns team, we're not going to win anyway. If we give up 27, we're probably not going to win anyway with Huntley. I mean, he played quite bad. I'm not going to belabor that point. I like Tyler Huntley. I hope he can stay in the NFL for 10 or 12 years, but I think he played quite bad tonight. I do think that it's possible Ricard got it or was very close. I would have thought that there would be a measurement, but they didn't even measure to my knowledge. But in any case, let's compare it to situations in the real world where something bad happens early on in your shift at work, early on in your relationship with a person, early on in a job interview, early on, I'm a former teacher, so let's do it this way. A classroom observation. If someone comes in to observe you and you do something really stupid as a teacher early on, that's going to cloud the summary judgment of your performance in the rest of the period and probably influence everyone who's reacting to you, meaning the students. I'll come back to that one later, maybe. Let's do it another way. You're a student in a class, and you come in and you act like a jackass in the first 3 minutes. How does the rest of the class go for you, and maybe even the rest of the period? It's possible that it spreads like a virus, right? And multiple people start acting like a jackass because you got away with it, or I got away with it if I'm the student in this scenario. Let's flip it. Let's rewind it a little bit. That same person, me, you, whoever comes into the classroom doesn't act like a jackass. How does the rest of the class period go compared to the original scenario I presented you there? The beginning of situations impacts the rest of the game, and in my opinion, these fourth down calls early in the game, it's not just an isolated thing like, oh, we didn't get 3 points, let's just move on. It's a huge impact. I think it's almost a 6-point swing. I don't know how to quantify that. I'm going to do another one. You're on a job interview, and we give a dumb answer as an interviewee, as a prospective employee. We give a really dumb answer. You get to the end of the interview. How does the rest of that interview go if you give a really stupid answer on the first question? If you give a really off-the-wall answer, I think it clouds the rest of the judgment that the interviewee, the boss, has of you, no matter what your answers are the rest of the time. Now, this is not a job interview. It's not. Well, I'm going to give you one more. Student driver. We've all been there, right? Maybe we all haven't been teachers, or maybe we all haven't been on job interviews. Maybe you're in a business, and so you haven't gone on a job interview in years. But we've all been here. Student driver. What if you make 1 or 2 horrible decisions early on in a student driving situation where you get to drive for 30 minutes with the driving instructor? That's going to cloud the summary judgment of it at the end, if you ask me, number one. Number two, the next time you're in that situation, the driving instructor may remove your ability to make that decision. I don't know if you guys know, maybe it never happened to you, but driving instructors have like a power brake on their side. They can brake if the student driver doesn't brake in time. Call it an emergency brake, whatever. It's on the ground on next to them on the right hand side. The right hand side, if you're driving in America, the passenger side. How does the beginning situations, how does the beginning decision making impact a football game? Well, it's cold as hell in Cleveland. There's probably a couple hundred people there in Cleveland that are Ravens staff members that traveled, not Lamar Jackson because he's injured and he's rehabbing or, regaining full health, hopefully. But everybody else is there. They're relying on you, John, to make the right decision. And when you don't make the right decision, that impacts them, not just their attitude, because we're all pissed off. I was mad for 2 hours. I still ain't let that decision go. How do you think it impacts those people, players, families, staff that's behind the scenes, not just coaches? How do you think it impacts them? Like you going for it and betraying our offensive line who did a great job leading up to that point. We had a 25-yard run by Edwards. We had a 17-yard run by Dobbins. I feel like the offensive line's done a good enough job to get us points there, John, and we go for it and we don't get it. I know it took me a long time to get here. My point is that decision has a ripple effect on the rest of the game, and it has a decision on the decisions that are made the rest of the night. It took me a long time to get to that point, so forgive me. If you hung around this long to listen to that rant, let me know what you think of that thought in the comments section. I was pretty pissed off for 2 hours, and that's why I feel comfortable putting graphics like that out because it reminds me of like Star Wars, where like Darth Vader and them, they're going to make this, the Empire, they're going to make a decision, and they don't care how it impacts the rest of the universe. In this case, we, as Ravens fans and other people, we're the rest of the universe that has to deal with the decision that the Empire makes because they feel like it. Because they feel like going for it on 4th and 1 when we didn't get it on 3rd and 3. I don't understand it. There is no justification for it for me as a person who has occasionally been responsible for other people, children, athletes, parents, support staff who come to road games and you have to make a decision. The only time I was presented with it, down 7-6 on the road against an undefeated JV team, the 1 year I coached JV, we decided to try to kick the extra point, after we scored to cut the deficit to 7-6 with like 7 minutes left. We had a great defense. I thought, we'll go ahead and tie it, stop them, get the ball back. We had a pretty good kicker. He went on to be All-State, the next 2 years as a junior and senior. Kid missed the kick. He missed the kick. Looking back on the hindsight, I'm like, I wish I'd gone for 2, giving us a chance to take the lead and then stop them, win the game outright 8-7, right? Kid missed the kick. Everybody blamed him, and I remember thinking to myself, if I was in that situation again, I'm going to go, as a JV coach, not varsity, I'm going to go ahead and go for 2, and then if we don't get it, who's everybody going to blame? They're going to blame me. Like, I'll take the blame. So maybe Harbaugh's one of those guys. Maybe he's willing to take the blame here. I don't think so. All right, going to move on to some of my thoughts after belaboring that point. This has been, that one to me, this 4th and 1 on the first possession it pisses me off as much as the 4th and 11 coverage in Chicago where Wink left our 5th or 6th best corner out to dry man-to-man against a former Olympic sprinter, and we know he got beat. Typical Ravens scenario, backup quarterback on the road. I would think our plan is to win the game, 15-13, 15-12, something like that. Instead, we go for a touchdown, refuse to take our medicine. All right, let's move on. Talk about some other things. Defensively, we weren't horrible. I don't think we were great. I think we were inconsistent defensively. And I thought that one thing we did not do was adjust to the Browns running. There was a stretch, guys, where the Browns ran like 2/3 of their plays into the boundary, so the short side of the field. And the Browns have a tendency to do that. They have a tendency to run into the boundary, run the ball into the boundary, and then boot to the field side or run complementary plays to the field with Chubb or Hunt. And I didn't think we adjusted to that at all. That would be my complaint. Now, if you look at the stats, I'll go back there for a second. If you look at the stats overall, we outgained them. We turned the ball over twice. The fumble by Robinson, the interception thrown by Huntley are really bad, and those guys deserve all the blame for that. Don't get me wrong. I think that in the Huntley situation, the play calls 2 plays prior to that kind of sets him up. Browns only averaged 4.4 yards per play, only 140 yards passing. Yeah, Tyler Huntley did not play well. I didn't think Deshaun Watson played great either, but he made 4 or 5 really nice throws, generally to the boundary, where their guys were wide open. I thought he really only made 1 dangerous throw. He threw out into the flats to Donovan Peoples-Jones in the second quarter, and Kyle Hamilton was there. Pretty close coverage, and I felt like if he went back to that concept later, Hamilton had an opportunity to jump it. I don't think we played a great game defensively. We have the talent to stop this team. I think that realistically holding them to 10 points would be a good game for our defense. If we were to hold them to 6 or 9, that would be a very good game. I would say anything above 13 points would have been a really bad game for our defense in terms of allowing points to the Browns, and they could have scored more, right? The guy missed 2 field goals. Having said that, in my opinion, once again, our decision-making is what is hanging us out to dry. We're not going to come in here and score a ton of points unless we run the ball down their throat, and we did. I mean, J.K. averaged, 9.6 per carry? Gus averaged like 7.8 or 8.2. I thought Moses on the poles was doing a great job. I thought Stanley to the play side was doing a fantastic job. We were inconsistent in attacking. Snag flat is what Huntley can throw. He can throw snag flat till the cows come home. And what I thought I saw was the Browns playing a lot of zone again, with certain exceptions where they played man. I thought the broadcast team got it wrong when they said the Browns played zone on every third down I didn't see that. I thought there was a little bit more man mixed in, but I could be wrong. We still didn't run stretch very well. Counter wind back just wrecked them. I thought, especially to our left, especially to the boundary. We did not do a good job at all of getting anything downfield, really, to me, at all. I didn't even see routes that were downfield. It's not like Huntley. I know that there was one time where they showed a replay of it, and Deshaun Jackson's running a post, and I think Duve is running a dig behind it. So that is one instance where we did at least run some downfield routes. I didn't think we did that enough, though, to me. And I didn't. And one point that somebody made in our Discord, and I think he even put it on Twitter, was the passes on first down. Once we've got to like the 35 or the 30, those are maddening to me. Field goals is going to win this game. Like, we don't like that style of. We don't like how ugly that looks, right? Anything that's going to have two odd numbers as a score, 15-13, or even 12-10, is going to look ugly as a final score, but it's still a win. It is the AFC North, and that is the way that the game is played sometimes, in the AFC North. Having said that, I thought we had opportunities to get touchdowns or at least get closer, give us a better chance. The third possession was one. We end up with a 1st and 10, and we haven't run stretch much. This is our third possession. Browns are up 3-0. We've already wasted the first possession, which I belabored that point. Our third possession, we go incomplete to Andrews and then a draw to Dobbins for 7. Dobbins gets it on a QB counter read for 3, gets the first down. Edwards for 7. Edwards for 10. So we're 1st and 10 at the 35, the area of the field that I think we really have some trouble with, more so than the 8. I mean, we do have trouble in the red zone, don't get me wrong. But I think getting the ball to Dobbins in the red zone gives us an opportunity to score because, I mean, look at how many plus 15-yard gains he had tonight. So anyway, this third possession, 1st and 10 from the 35, and we go stretch to Dobbins. That's not a concept that we were winning on. That's what just surprises me about Greg Roman. There's times where he's got concepts that are working, and we just go away from him. Then on 3rd and 8, we run the QB power read to Duve, and it looks like on the mesh between Huntley and Duve, there's a mix-up, and I don't think either one of those guys played well tonight. I still don't think Duve looks healthy. Kick returns, if it was me coaching on that staff, in a meeting, I would say I think we should take him off kick returns. He doesn't look like he's given us anything, in my opinion. I haven't seen an explosive play on kick return or punt return in 5 or 6 weeks from him, and to me, he's capable of that, because he's done that for the better part of the last 2 years. So to me, he doesn't look healthy. I don't know what the other explanation is. If he's able to do those things, and we have film of him doing them in the last 2.5 plus years, and then suddenly we have a 5-6 week stretch where he's just doesn't look like the same guy in terms of speed running. I don't know another explanation. I guess another explanation is he's just not running hard. I don't think that's the case. All right, going to throw these pictures back up. If you guys enjoy them, let me know. We'll use the other one. All right. Now let's get to our defense a little bit. Browns' 4th possession. So we just tied it up 3-all. Guys, they go to the boundary on 5 of 7 plays on this 4th possession. I actually stopped charting after the 5th one because I was like, you're telling me they're just going to keep going into the boundary. They had a completion to Peoples-Jones in the flats on 1st and 10. And it's the one where Hamilton's close. It was a dangerous throw. Got 6 yards. It was completed. Don't get me wrong. Hamilton's close enough where he could possibly have undercut it if he decided to. And I thought it was I thought it was the only real dangerous throw I saw from Watson tonight. They kept it really safe for him. Quick decisions. Chubb on a sweep to the field on a 2nd and 4. And then they go Chubb into the boundary, 3rd and 1, 19 yards. Hunt into the boundary, 5 yards. And then the completion into the boundary to Baldwin, a receiver, I think a rookie receiver, for 10. Then they go play action boot to Njoku into the boundary. So 5 of 7 plays, maybe it's 5 of 6 actually into the boundary. I've stopped charting for like a minute. I was still pissed off from the first possession, our decision, and then when I saw them just running plays into the boundary and us incapable of defending it. Now they got down to the 4 or the 5 yard line, and we were able to make a stand and hold them to a field goal. So yeah, that's great. We're still only down 6-3, but I still felt like we did not adjust either tactically as players or with our calls as a defense. The Browns, to me, look like the Titans. They're a team that attacks to the boundary a lot with the run and even in some situations with the pass. All right, skipping forward, our possession at the end of the 2nd quarter. Now, I have been quite tough on our coaches with some of my criticisms, rightfully so, right? Having said that, I actually do not blame them for part of this possession at the end of the second quarter. It looked like to me the headset goes out, number one, or the play clock ran quickly. Now you're going to say, well, we've had a history of that problem, Coach. So why don't you blame? I don't know why the headset looks like it goes out. Now the headset looks like it could go out because at the time when it's supposed to, in terms of the play clock. Huntley turns to the sideline. We actually got a really good view of it on the broadcast angle. Huntley looks to the sideline, starts waving his arms like I can't hear anything. I'm talking about 1st and 10 from the 44-yard line. We had just converted a 3rd and 7 on a completion to Likely along the right side. Now, I've got a little bit of a complaint here. Huntley throws the ball to Likely. Likely gets tackled and goes out of bounds. Why the hell doesn't the clock stop? It's like 34 seconds left. We have to use a timeout. I don't understand this need for referees to be involved in every decision. A human being who caught the football ran out of bounds. That has always been a stoppage of play. I don't know why it's not. It's not like he chose to run out of bounds in a college football game in the middle of the second quarter. A player tackled him. He was on the sideline. It looked like he was trying to fight for another yard or two and then stepped out of bounds. To me, it seemed like there was 2 or maybe 3 plays that could have been reviewed. We all should be pissed at our coaches and to some extent our players, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't identify situations that are bullshit. And that was bullshit. That 3rd and 7 completion to Likely, the clock should have stopped. We shouldn't have had to use a timeout. Then the next play, we have to call a timeout because Huntley can't hear in his headset. So we get a delay. We come out and we come out to Duve and go incomplete on 1st and 15, 2nd and 15, completion to Robinson, and then a nice gain on an over concept to Andrews to get down to the 36 with like maybe inside of 18 seconds left. Now, you're going to say, well, Coach, we put Tucker in position to make it. He missed it. That is true. It's also true that it should have been 6-6 anyway. That should have been a field goal to put us up 9-6. Now, you may be one of those people who says, well, we're not going to beat the great teams playing like this anyway. That might be true. I don't care. I'm evaluating this game. And tactically, you don't make decisions on December 17th based upon a theoretical team you might play in the AFC division round or the AFC championship if we're blessed enough to get there. You make decisions based upon tonight. And the first possession, the 4th and 1, where Ricard got stopped, like you see on the screen right there, that one came back to haunt us. It's karma. That's karma. Missing that field goal. Justin Tucker doesn't miss those field goals, but when he does, we usually lose. Think of the Buffalo playoff game on the road in 2020 where we missed 2 field goals and then we throw a pick 6 later on in the game that turns a 10-3 deficit that should have been 10-9 or maybe even 12-10 us at that point into 17-3, which is, untenable in terms of us coming back. All right, then, so we don't score at the end of the second quarter. Our 5th possession I've already talked about, where we go Dobbins for 3, snag flat to Robinson, complete versus zone for 7, Dobbins for 25, Dobbins for 5, Edwards for 7, Edwards for 1, and then another snag flat to Robinson. We get the first down by Huntley scrambling, and then the horrible decision to throw on first down. I think it was C-Bus Mike in our Discord that I mentioned earlier talked about it. Be who you are. You're down 6-3. You're not going to win this game 21-6. It's not like this is college football where you have to win by 3 touchdowns if you're the Ravens at 9-4 playing against a 5-8 Browns team. You know what I mean? Where you've got the top 25 and people will, slide you down a couple of slots from number 6 or 7 or 8 in the league to number 10 because you only won 12-10. Who cares? Be who you are. 1st and 10, 16-yard line, 5th possession. Offense has been struggling except for J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. I don't know. Give them the damn ball once we get there. Now we give them the ball on the 2nd and 14. Dobbins gets a short gain. 3rd and 10, we get the offsetting penalties. Duvernay, the ball is a little bit high. I'd still like to see him catch that football. I still feel like it's there for him to catch. He's open. Doesn't look as fast to me. But we got offsetting penalties, a hold on us and offsides on them, and the very next play is the interception. So we ruined an opportunity to double up, meaning score at the end of the second quarter, score in the beginning of the third quarter. I don't feel like we adjust well to the players that we have on the field. Right now, for better or for worse, or not scoring a ton of points. We're just not. Blame whoever the hell you want. I really don't care. Like, I'm not the person responsible for deciding who has a job or not. In my opinion, every person there in the locker room should be dressed down verbally to their face in front of everyone for tonight because they all did a poor job, with a few exceptions. I mean, the offensive line blocked the hell out of some of our counter plays. J.K. and Gus ran the ball well. Some of our guys up front, did a great job in run blocking. Don't get me wrong, but everybody had a hand in this. But I think the early decision making, you're the person in charge. You're the person responsible for everyone there, responsible for, in some cases, them having a job. Tyler Huntley wouldn't have a job in the NFL, or he may not, excuse me, if it wasn't for Lamar and the Ravens deciding to bring him in. You're responsible for him. You have a caretaker mindset. In my opinion, that long drive at the end to start the game, the first possession, then the one to end the second quarter, and the one to start the third quarter. I texted the guys in our Discord, and I know that it sounded negative. I said, we're going to lose this game by 10 points. This game's over. Because we have made decisions that have limited our outcome. Now, defense did one worse. After we don't score, the interception by Ward, great play by him. Browns' fifth possession with a 6-3 lead halfway through the fourth quarter. It's a 3rd and 7 for the Browns from the -13. And Houston gets a sack. Face mask. They go down and score, guys. This is when they go down and score their touchdown. So we have multiple guys making mistakes across the board. Me personally, I'm choosing to blame, the head coach decision making and then some of the play calls, going away from the run. Why won't you just be who you are? Be who you are, Greg Roman. There's a lot of people who hate you already. Like, I don't hate him. I want him to succeed. I want us to win tonight. I don't care what the score is. I don't care whether it's 62-7 or 7-2. But be who you are. If you're going to go out, get fired or whatever, go out being who you are. We don't have Lamar, so it's a limiting factor. I understand that. And in my opinion, that's what makes the decision on the first possession even worse. Forgive me for belaboring that point, but this moment when we are unable to stop them, yes, it looks bad. Houston getting a face mask, them going down and scoring. They converted a 4th and 1 from our 8-yard line. Chubb got it up the middle. We looked soft on that one, defensively, if you ask me. Then on the 3rd and goal, it looks like Queen kind of gets too horizontal and overruns it, because Humphrey's outside there. And then Queen over-pursues, and Peoples-Jones catches it, swings it into the end zone. I mean, game over. I know the end of the third quarter, we had that little flash where the guys got excited. Look, man, the announcer sucked. I was a huge Kurt Warner fan as a player, and I still am. I see the content he creates. I'm a huge Kurt Warner fan, but I'm going to be honest with you. He reminded me of Tony Romo last year in the Ravens-Bears game, where it looked like Romo had just flown in and didn't wake up until halftime. I'm talking about the game that we tried to blow, and then we ended up winning 16-13. Same thing with Warner. Middle of the first quarter, I even texted in the Discord. I said, is Kurt Warner even talking? Is his mic muted or something? I don't know if you ever played Xbox Live or PlayStation, but people can mute their mics, and then they forget they muted their mic for 5 minutes. Like, oh, guys, I'm sorry. I muted my mic. I've been talking for 5 minutes. That's what it seemed like with Kurt Warner to me. It seemed like he muted his mic and didn't know it. And then finally in the third quarter started interacting a little bit. Anyway, end of the third quarter, we get 35-yard gain to Dobbins. Duve with a 19-yard gain on a RPO, and then screen. And then guess what? Dobbins doesn't touch the ball again. Doesn't touch it. And we get the field goal block, which looked like a poor job by someone on our right side. I don't know who it was. So, there's more blame to go around. Don't get me wrong. Browns miss a couple of field goals after gaining possession in our territory. We can't get anything going offensively. Just a really crappy night. And I think that the path that we took tonight was divergent. We were supposed to be on a certain path. Let's get field goals. If we score a touchdown in the red zone or we get a defensive touchdown, whatever we do, fine. We'll take it. But don't make mistakes. We made mistakes, some of which our players were pressing on because of the situation they were put in. I blame everybody, but I blame Harbaugh and Roman because of the play calling and the decision making. I just don't get it. Remember there was a time where people were like, Lamar, somebody has to tell Lamar no. in terms of the fourth downs. Going, Lamar on 3rd and 2, we don't get it. Lamar will turn to the sideline and wave, Tucker off or whatever. And people say, Lamar, somebody's got to tell him no. Somebody's got to tell Harbaugh no. Like, this is to the point now where we are entering addiction territory. Like, I forget who it was said, it's almost like he's addicted to that moment of grotesque horror that all of the rest of us have of, oh my God, are we really going for this? It's almost like he's addicted to that moment. I'm talking about the moment before you actually either convert the fourth down or don't get it. I don't know what sadistic thing that is, but that's what makes me feel comfortable putting these pictures out here, because A, they're professionally done, and I think he deserves it at this point. I've been responsible for people and kids and parents and seen losses and seen how it affects them when they pour their heart out for you and for themselves, because all sports is selfish. First of all, it is. When you're playing for yourself first, and you're playing for your team, especially if you have a feeling of camaraderie that's been developed by everyone. So don't get me wrong, it's not all selfishness. But as a coach, your first thought has to be for everyone else. Even though personally you may want to do this, and there may be some person over there with a really high-level math degree telling you that this is the right thing to do, it's wrong. It's the wrong thing to do. And it's continued to backfire. And if you don't believe me, let's do it this way. The possessions we had in the third quarter, a blocked field goal, an interception, are those possessions changed at all if we have 6 points at that time? If it's 6-6, first possession of the third quarter, are we less likely to throw the ball on that 3rd and 10 on a concept that we don't run a whole lot of? We don't run that concept a lot to Deshaun Jackson. We really don't. So I don't, it's not like we can't execute it. Just saying, I haven't seen us execute it 6, 8, 10, 12 times this year. If it's 6-6 on that 5th possession, the first possession of the third quarter, are we more likely to do something safe, conservative, and take a 9-6 lead? Now, it wasn't 6-6. It was 6-3. My point is there's a ripple effect of that decision, and I am more pissed off about that decision than our offense only scoring 3 points. I'll be honest with you, because I still think that we could win this game if we get that field goal on the first possession. So I spent the entirety or 80% of this reaction video ranting and raving about that decision. There are certainly many other things that happened in the game that went wrong, quote unquote. That's one that I find difficult to move past because of my experience trying to take it as seriously as possible, being responsible for other people and kids and adults traveling for long games, and then having to look them in the eye after the game when they've given everything. You as a person, as an adult, the adult in charge, the head coach, you want to be able to look them back in the eye and recognize the effort they gave, and that nothing you did caused that hurt for them. And in my opinion, these decisions that Harbaugh's making on 4th down, they are actually causing the agony of defeat. They're actually, some of it, maybe not all of it, but they're causing those things, and that's why it bothers me so personally. So it may not affect you. You may have different complaints, and that there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not choosing to say your complaints aren't valid by not focusing on them. This is just what I focus on. I'm sure that other content creators focus on different things, so go listen to them, Ravens content creators. Go listen to them and support them in the same way that you've supported me if you've listened for this long. Appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of my thoughts. Let me know what you think of the graphics. They are on some level funny, on some level they are not at all, because it's yet another time where it appears as if analytics or Harbaugh or both have made a decision that nobody else on the sideline agrees with. Certainly not the defense. Certainly not the offensive line that just worked their ass off to get points. You kick it on 4th and 1 from the 16 or 14 or whatever it was. We're getting points. Justin Tucker's making that one. He's not getting it blocked from there because the trajectory is different. He's not missing from the 16 or 14 or 12, wherever it was. It reminds me of the Empire on Star Wars that makes a decision arbitrarily and just doesn't give a shit what you think about it.